Hey, 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 welcome into some breaking news just coming over the wire. Fernando, you want to fill them in?
Yeah, I just got off the phone with Todd, and I was like, "Hey, man, we got to come on." Taylor Ward, as everyone knows, Todd has famously been, and I and everyone on this network has been wanting Taylor Ward to be dealt for quite a while. Well, folks, the day has come. Taylor Ward has been officially traded to the Baltimore Orioles for Grayson Rodriguez. Now, before we dive into Grayson Rodriguez and what we really feel about the Grayson Rodriguez trade, Todd, you long time coming for you. What's your initial reaction
I think
before we
right
dive
off
into it?
right off the bat, I mean, look, there's a page on Instagram called Taylor Ward Lover, and I know he's going to have to change either his team or his name of the page. Look, the guy was serviceable for the Angels, but my biggest criticism was that he swung out of the zone, was home run or nothing, strikeout. He was not a number four hitter. He was thrust into that position because of the depth and the players that we had on this team. I didn't like it from the start. And he was a terrible outfielder, noodle arm, the whole thing. But then people are going to say, "Oh, but he had so many home runs." But did he get on base? No, he didn't. He wasn't clutch for the most part. And I've always had that criticism about him that we should have traded him a year or two ago. You were on board with that as well. And I think right now we get a guy in Grayson under control for a while. Yeah, he was injured last year, but Taylor Ward was on the last year of his contract. The fact that they even got anything for him, as far as a good starting pitcher, which I think Grayson will be, I think it's sort of a win-win because now Baltimore can test him out. They don't, and like you've been saying, and I've been saying, if Taylor Ward's your number seven hitter, man, that's a good lineup, and I think that's where he's probably going to bat right in that Baltimore lineup. He should be around seven.
Potentially, I mean, the Orioles do have when things are firing a good team. Obviously, last year was a bit of a disaster, but that was just underperforming. I think we all agree that the Orioles are a better team, at least than they were last year.
Yeah. Uh,
So yeah, I could probably see him batting, at least not being the guy in the lineup, right? Adley Rutschman is a much better hitter, and same with Holiday.
well, let me ask you this question: what does this open up now? Does this open up the Angels for free agency as far as getting outfielders? Because realistically, Kyron Paris is still a project. He's still, we want to see him succeed, but he's got to fix a few things. The only guy we got out there right now serviceable is Adele, and if you're going to tell me Trout's going to be full time, I'm going to laugh in your face. So, he's likely your DH right now, right? So, I mean, like, what do you think the Angels are going to do come free agency? Because now you got two big holes out there.
Yeah, the biggest thing is this opens up a hole for the Angels to go get a center fielder, right? Joe Adele, I don't think is a major league center fielder. Did great in right field. I think he'll be fine in left field. But we saw last year it didn't transition to him being a center fielder. Angels need to go get a true center fielder. I made a joke earlier that JJ Bleday, since he's been DFA'd by the Athletics and was so bad defensively, I'm like, oh man, this has Angels written all over it. But yeah, no, I'm going to be interested to see what the Angels do in terms of filling that center field hole. I mean, you still have Soler. That's kind of the big piece that you really need to get rid of. That's what, about $13 million in cap space. That's just going to be literally eating a hole in the salary cap. $13 million is a pretty good amount of money. Not if you're Artie Moreno, but for you and I,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a lot of money. And realistically, for a team, you can get a decent amount for 13 million, especially if we're talking about what Jorge Soler, who at this point's a fourth outfielder,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
right now, I mean, you'd have to think about Trout and Soler possibly just switching off between DH and right field. That's just to say if both of them stay healthy. So you obviously either have a center field spot open or a left field, depending on what they want to do with Adele. So there is going to be a corner spot open, and you got to think the catching spots filled. You got third base is now an opening as well. You got shortstop, second base should be filled, and first base obviously. So, but Grayson, I know he didn't pitch at all last year, but the two prior years he had started between an average of 23 and 26 games. He's also got like I think he had an ERA in 24 of 386, was it? and he started with a 4 ERA prior to that. So we're not talking about we're getting a Paul Skeens here. So I know you're not going to get a player like that, but you are getting a guy with control for a few more years, and he's going to be a guy who again is a potential number two. Do you think?
So Grayson Rodriguez, the biggest thing is Taylor Ward was in his final year of control. So he's going to be projected to get $13.7 million. And once again, he's a free agent after this season. Someone's going to pay Taylor Ward. You and I have said that many, many times. You already alluded to the fact that Grayson Rodriguez is controllable. He has 4 more years of control left. He does have plus stuff. His biggest issue has been the same issue of most Angels players. Availability. He hasn't been very available. He hasn't pitched in the minors in the majors since July 31st, 2024. So that is going to put it in a big time perspective there. This guy hasn't pitched in like a year and a half at the major league level.
Yeah.
So he began the 2025 year on the injured list, had some elbow inflammation. We all know here in Anaheim that's not good, so hopefully he doesn't have that. Got a cortisone shot. And then in April, he had his side session canceled, just a pitching session. Had an MRI, shoulder soreness. In 2023, he was diagnosed with a mild strain in his right lat, and he was transferred to the 60-day IL in April of 28th of last year. And on the 4th of August, he had to undergo season-ending elbow surgery. So that's where Grayson Rodriguez is. Now, we obviously know that this guy has had a history of injuries in the past, but he does have plus stuff. He's been, when available, a decent arm for the Orioles. And I mean, that's to say the least. I haven't gotten to see him pitch too much. He only has 100 and so his projections for last year were supposed to get him about 121 innings pitched. And obviously that didn't happen. The guy didn't even take the mound at all. But once again, we are trading a guy who was on his way out probably anyway, because none of us wanted the Angels to pay Taylor Ward what he would have commanded in free agency, right? Let's face it. Taylor Ward, let's say he has another above average year to productive year, right? It's a contract year. He's probably going to make about what? 20 to 25 next year?
I would say let's say he puts up a number close to what he did this year, he's looking at probably 5 years, 82 to 100 million.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had told you off air when did we talk last week? I had told you that I think Taylor Ward was going to get traded to the Yankees. I thought that if the Yankees couldn't keep Trent Grisham, which by the way, he's back. So that's another guy who there was some people saying, you know what, he could be an Angel. That guy's off the board.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised that he accepted the qualifying offer.
Yeah, me too. There was a few guys that accepted the qualifying offer, but I think that goes to our point where we were talking about the strike looming, like these guys want to get paid before if there is a dramatic change in the structure of how they pay with a salary cap floor or ceiling. So I think in that regard, you were seeing more players take that move than they would have. But as far as Taylor Ward, I will say this, dude. He did provide us with some good memories last year, and he did play decent. But again, I look at more of his warts. I felt that he could have been more of a team guy. He was a more me guy. And, I think in a good lineup like Baltimore, I think that's going to help them in trying to restructure after such a bad season last year. If you're batting a guy like that at number 7 in a ballpark like that where left field they made it a little harder to hit right there, but that's his bread and butter to go to left field. And he's shown that he can hit in that ballpark in years past. If you're putting him down the lineup, I think that average goes up from 228 to possibly 260 because he'll get better pitches to hit because they'll be focusing on the raw talent of that team. So I think he'll be a very good complementary player. The jury's still out about Rodriguez in my mind. I think he if he gives you a similar year as he did in 24 for the Angels, that's a super plus. Having another guy that can have an ERA under 4. But we're gonna have to see how it comes out. So this is one of those you were gonna. This is 2 trades too late, bro. I mean, we should have did this with Mike Trout back in the day. I know some people are gonna kill me for that. And then we should have definitely did it with Otani. Don't let these guys walk if you're not gonna resign them.
Yeah, look, I wanted Taylor Ward to bring us a piece that could move the needle. Now, I understand that there's a lot of risk here, but high risk means high reward, right?
Yeah.
Now, the Angels have had a very bad track record with guys who have high potential. Let's face it. There isn't a lot of guys that they've either drafted or traded for that were young, had potential, and panned out. Caleb Coward, Brandon Wood, these are some guys that had high potential. Granted, those guys were drafted, and they didn't quite pan out. And Matt Shoemaker was he drafted or undrafted free agent?
I want to say undrafted free agent.
You could let us know in the comments. But a guy who came out, had a strong rookie year, just didn't quite finish it out. Somebody said should have traded Rengifo too. Maybe we had the chance. Yeah, because I was screaming that forever. There you go, undrafted free agent is what Randy's confirming for me. So we haven't exactly had the best success, but once again, you have to take these gambles to get your team to the next level. This is a guy that's young, controllable, has that number 2, number 3 upside. Guys, this is the piece that could help the Angels starting rotation for the next couple years take that step forward. Now, when you have guys like Taylor Ward, who were productive major league hitters, no matter which way you slice or dice it, we know this guy's not the best defensively, but we knew there was going to be a team willing to take a chance because of his offense. Clearly, the Orioles do. I think his numbers are going to pop off next year because the AL East is far more hitter friendly. Don't you see this guy potentially hitting an extra 5 to 10 home runs next year just because of the ballparks he's going to be playing in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why I said his average should go up too, especially where he's batting. Like, think about this, dude. You're with most of our guys always injured. The 2 guys who were getting the toughest pitches to hit all year seem to be Adele and Ward. Neto got the breaks because they had him as a leadoff. But this just goes to think that I think Neto's going to wind up moving into that 3 spot. I think the Angels, if they get an outfielder or a third baseman that's speedy, that'll most likely be your leadoff, or a second baseman if they're not ready to rock with more to start the year. So I think a guy like Neto would be, sliding into that power spot too, because he's shown it. But Ward, I think, is going to be a beneficiary of like you said, Boston, Fenway, short porch in Yankee Stadium. Toronto's easy to hit home runs. Baltimore a little bit harder, but he's shown he could hit there. Tampa Bay is a home run hitters park. If you look at the AL West, it's changed. Some nights if the wind's pushing out, Angel Stadium's easy to hit, but Seattle's a tough place to hit. Texas is a tough place to hit. And also, Houston is iffy, but we always suck there. But the only place that's a hitter's ballpark, if you think about it, is Sacramento, playing in that park, being short, fences and whatnot. But boy, oh boy, man, this one came out of nowhere,
Yeah, no, I certainly didn't think it was going to happen at 10 o'clock my time. I was literally laying in bed. We were watching 90 Day Fiance, the tell-all from Sunday that we missed. And my girlfriend looked at me. She's a little under the weather. She looked at me. She's like, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm like, okay. And that's when I get a text from one of my boys. And he's like, hey, bro, Taylor Ward's getting traded. And I was like, what? No way. And that's when the Twitter notification came in. I called you, and I was like, oh, Todd's not going to answer. And you did, lo and behold. Couple more minutes here, guys. Let us know in the comments how you guys are feeling about this. We'll talk a little bit about Grayson Rodriguez's scouting grades. So keep in mind, this is on a 20 to 80 scale. 80 is the elite of the elite. So his fastball grades at about a 65, curveball at a 50, slider at a 65, changeup at a 55. His control's a 50, and he's overall at a 50. Now, his fastball can reach to the low triple digits. He's a 99, 100 mile an hour type of guy. But once again, this is a guy that has not pitched since July of 2024. That is, of course, the biggest caveat to bring up. But I think Todd is very similar in mind that I am. He's a guy that has 4 more years of control. He's a guy with a lot of upside. He's a guy that could potentially get the starting rotation, especially next season, because I think 2026 might be a bit iffy, right? We don't know how he's going to bounce back from injury, from his surgery. But potentially in 2027, we could be talking about Brenner, the guy that we drafted.
Mm-hmm.
We could be talking about Caden Dana finally being up. We could be talking about Grayson Rodriguez. Jose Soriano could be at that level. And then, who knows? I mean, you'll still technically have Yusei Kikuchi. Mike S. is saying terrible trade. Mike, go ahead.
No, he just said Grayson Rodriguez. Where did he put it? He put Grayson Rodriguez, who can't stay healthy, coming to the Angels where players can't stay healthy. Baltimore won the trade.
Okay.
Now that's a fair point because again, we have the worst training staff in all of baseball. But I will say this to your point, Fernando. What we got? Detmers, Soriano for next year. Who else right now? Who else is in the rotation that we could lock down? If you were to say right now,
you say Kikuchi. You say
Kikuchi. That's 3 right there. Assuming
Reed Detmers, they're saying that he's going to be in next year.
Yeah, so it'll be Reed, Kikuchi, Soriano, and let's just say Grayson's ready to roll, right? That'd be 4 guys right there, young, relatively young, with active fastballs, a lot of good movement. And that's a good rotation if healthy. Now that's always a question. However, Fernando, none of those guys are number ones, obviously.
Of course.
In your world, Fernando, right now, free agency is it as it is right now, not looking ahead to next year, 27, but in 26, if the Angels were to land an ace with those 4 pitchers in the rotation healthy, which one do you think would fit the Angels roster best with these 4 current pitchers that we just mentioned?
So if the Angels were to get any starting pitcher that's available right now,
that's closest to an ace in your opinion.
I'm looking at the list, but like the first name that came to mind was Michael King, was the guy I really wanted. Ranger Suarez is a guy who's interesting to me too, but he's a lefty. I'm just not in love with the Angels getting another lefty. I know what I just said. I would really want Shoto Amaga. He accepted his qualifying offer with the Cubs, so he's out of the question. I know he's a lefty, but I thought that for the price, he was going to be in that $13 to $15 million range. That's Tyler Anderson money. I think Shoto Amaga had more to offer the Angels than Tyler Anderson did.
Yeah.
But once again, he's out of the question now. He accepted his qualifying offer.
What about Framber Valdez? Some people are mentioning that.
Framber Valdez is a very interesting piece. Obviously, we are very familiar with him. Another guy who has a lot of potential, a lot of upside. I don't think he's a number 1 guy, but once again, I don't think the A word is really available in this year's free agency. But also, we've had this discussion many, many times. There's not a lot of true aces left in Major League Baseball right now. Zach Gallen's a name I see on there, along with the Framber Valdez. Zach Gallen's interesting as well. I do think he's going to be a little too expensive for the Angels this year, but I have seen there are some sources that picked him to go to the Angels. So we'll see. I don't think the Angels are going to strike early on a free agent starting pitcher, and I think this move almost proves that. Well, I think this is going to be the big sexy splash for at least the next couple weeks. And I'll say this. If we would have gotten Grayson Rodriguez and we would have traded Jorge Soler in a low-grade prospect, hypothetically, people would have been like, well, this is a great deal. But I do think that because we traded Taylor Ward, one of the guys that had some of the biggest punch that we have to offer, there's a lot of people who are kind of like, I don't know about that. But here's the thing, guys. We all wanted Taylor Ward to be traded. Can't tell me we didn't. Everyone's been saying, hey, trade Taylor Ward. I see no issue with that. Angels finally did that for a guy with potential. We didn't go out and get Trevor Cahill. We didn't go out there and get Matt Harvey. Did we take a gamble? Yes, but we did take a gamble on a young, controllable starter.
Yeah. But and you know, if you look at it through Baltimore's eyes, this is a rental. This is a 1-year rental. There is no way a team like I could see Taylor Ward balling out and signing with Tampa Bay a contract, right? Or even like a Las Vegas. I don't see him signing in Baltimore has got other potential free agents to work on. As their kids get a little older in the system and their controls going down a bit, they've got some guys to sign. I don't see him. This is going to be a guy. It's like, hey, you're going to help us this year. You're going to audition for your next team. So, for in all essence, it's a 1-year deal. If you look at it with a glass half full, you say, okay, you're getting Grayson, like you said, for 4 years. Mike Maddox is now the pitching coach. Can he be the dude that helped him to get to the next level? Because you mentioned in the last podcast, if Mike Maddox can't help Reed Detmier's stay out of the deer and headlights look and get into that I'm going to mow you down look all the time instead of being just half-assed all the time, if he can't fix what's wrong with Reed or help Soriano get to the next level, then maybe we start to say, maybe this isn't the team for you. Maybe you're not the guy. But on paper, though, you bringing that up, my man, I got to ask you this question. If you were to add a framer or a Gallon at number 1 and then have the 4 pitchers that we named as a starting 5, I'm good with that. Couple that with bullpen pieces coming back like Stevenson, Joyce, and then you got obviously the potential to re-sign Jansen, which he loves it here. So you'll still have that, Joyce trying to set up Jansen type deal. And you have the bullpen wasn't that bad last year. I mean, potentially Fernando, then if this works out and we were to sign an ace to go along with this trade, or at least someone close to an ace, like you said, wouldn't we just have to fill the gaps power wise and hitting wise?
Well, you're starting to sound like an Angels front office executive already.
I'm starting to honk my honk a little bit, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Look, I'll say this: the biggest hole. There's still a giant hole in the back end of that bullpen. You still got to figure out who's going to close games out for you. I don't think any of us would be upset if you give Kenley Jansen maybe another 1 or a 2-year deal, right? Yeah. And then Dan Rios, it's Framber Valdez.
He's a teacher, so he's forever trying to correct me. And fuck the Rams. Go Seahawks.
Did you guys lose this week?
Yes, go Seahawks. Anyway, moving on.
Fair enough. And there's another giant hole at center. Sorry, I decided to burp, so I had to mute myself. Sorry, guys. There's another big hole at center field for the Angels right now. And to me, that's the biggest thing you got to address. Center field, try to get a solid number 2 starting pitcher. You and I have already kind of agreed. We're probably not going to get a number 1 in the rotation because that guy just isn't available right now in the market, in my opinion. At least not via free agency. There's a lot of guys that have number 1 type stuff. Like we've seen Dylan Cease be elite, but he wasn't amazing as a Padre. He's not an ace. Framber Valdez, really good starting pitcher for the Astros for, a good amount of time, but he's 32 years old. So you got to worry at one point, is he going to start to regress? Father Time's undefeated, especially with starting pitchers. So the Angels have to get a guy who is still young enough to be productive. Zach Gallen is only 30. Michael Young's only 31. Maybe see if you can intrigue one of these guys on a 2-3 year deal. Give them a 4th, 5th year option. I do think that could help the Angels move the needle and get to 2027, assuming there's no giant lockout, where the Angels are hoping to start competing, because this going well is playing competitive games down the stretch in 2026. We were hoping we were going to get that this year. In August, they were still competitive-ish. But they really just need to take that step forward because, man, when the dog days of August rolled around, this team was down and out, and they were just defeated, man. So we really, really need the Angels to take that next step, because if we're talking about another team next year after 2027, assuming we play a full season, that loses, what do you think, 80 games? At that point, we're now talking about Ohapi, Neto, and Chenuel with only potentially 2-ish years of control left, depending on which one of them.
Yeah, you're going to start to lose those guys, and you're going to have to depend on the guys from the Quakes, from Rocket City to be the next
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do this right, you could have 3 to 4 years, because Neto, his clock is running out the soonest, right? Now Neto's a guy that I think all of us agree needs to be re-signed. The second Anthony Rendon's contract is off the books after the 2026 season, I think you need to give Neto that extension. Give him a 5-year deal. I think that's fair.
Oh yeah, do something what Atlanta did. 5 years, 180. I mean,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You're going to incentivize him to stay. I know for a fact we're losing Adele, even though he has 2 years contract left. I mean, there's no way that his agent Boris is going to allow him to extend before his major league time clock is up. So,
Yeah.
You're looking at having Adele ascend and maybe possibly get to another new level this year, and he's going to go. So you might have to be in the same situation next year. You should be like, hey, we're gonna have to trade Adele, but get more back for him. If you think about it, guys, if you think about this, because there's a lot of comments on all of our social medias right now saying this was a terrible trade, right? But if you think about it, Taylor Ward's 31 years old. Should you have traded him last year? Absolutely. But they didn't do it, right? So you lose a half year of control where someone could have, used him as a playoff run, and now he's just looking like he's looking like a free agent with his trade. And Baltimore's and the Angels aren't looking to add payroll, so you're not going to, you got a guy who's under control being paid like a rookie contract. Although good, has potential, injury prone. We all know that, but Taylor Ward, you really want to max this dude out because he's going to want a max contract for his age after this season at 32. Wouldn't be a wise move. Angels have a history of bad contracts. And, again, they've done a lot by doing a little at this point. And, again, it's easier to, we've already got a shortstop and a catcher. If we can fix Ohapi, again, get him back to how he was hitting in the first half of the season. Those two positions in a hit in the infield or whatever outfield, those are the two hardest to fill. You've got those. You got those bookends. Now it's, hey, Shauna Well's a good hitter at first. We got to see what Moore can do at second. If we're going to have, run somebody to go with him at second, that the big hole is third base right now. And now and I got to ask you this, Fernando, because again, they don't want Trout in center field. Adele's iffy in center field. Adele's better in right, but you got to play Trout or Soler in right? So, where do you put Adele? Do you put him at left and then go for a center fielder, or do you put him in center and say, here's the keys, do what you got to do, and then get a left fielder?
I put him in left field, and the Angels need to get a center fielder this offseason. They just do. I mean, Joe Adele's not that guy. Mike Trout's going to get hurt. We know for sure Jorge Soler can't play center field. He can't even play the outfield. Yeah. So, you might have to give someone a prospect type of thing, maybe a low grade prospect to entice them to, take that contract. We've seen the Angels do that before with Zach Cozart. Yeah, I know you got to go because you got the football show. Thank you, Randy, for letting me borrow him. I will say this. For anyone who is freaking out about this trade, saying this is a terrible move, go look on the Baltimore Orioles Twitter for this exact trade. About 70% of their franchise is saying, what are we doing? Why did we get Taylor Ward? Who's going to be our ace now? So the fact that these Orioles fans who remember that's a franchise who thinks they are competitive. The fact that they are over there thinking, what are we doing, should let us know that they at least think that this Grayson Rodriguez guy is enough of a piece worth keeping that they're upset about getting Taylor Ward, who's going to help their team win in 2026. So that's all I'll say. And thanks for joining us, everyone. Chuck?
Oh, final thoughts on this. A lot of people are saying, what about Teodosio, Nelson Rada? Nelson Rada is just going to be a guy who's, again, you're bringing up out of the minors. He's going to have to be a guy who's going to platoon and work his way into the lineup. I don't want to start a rookie who hasn't played at all. And then as far as Teodosio, he showed that he can catch everything out there in center, right? But he had the same kind of problems that every other hitter had, which was helping this team get to 1,600 strikeouts as a team. He struck out way too much, and I think he's a tall dude. He's got to crouch down to shrink that strike zone and improve his swing, just like Trout. Trout's got to do the same thing. So, in my opinion, could he be serviceable out there as a fourth outfielder? Absolutely. But
yeah, I think Bryce's ceiling is a fourth outfielder, which is fine. But yeah, Nelson Rada is still really young. He's what, 19? I think he'll
only
be 20.
19, yeah.
He did bat like 290 between AA and AAA last year.
Mhm.
So, I definitely think if you're gonna take the gamble on Bryce Teodosio as a starter in center field, let's just say you make no moves at all. Yeah, I mean, just give it to Nelson Rada. You got nothing to lose. I mean, let the kids play type of mentality. I would much rather a young guy take his bumps out there and learn the hard way. But you know what? If you have the ability to bring in a guy on a 1-2 year deal, I see some people saying Cedric Mullins. I'm cool with that. Give him a 1 or 2 year contract and go from there. See what happens. But that's a topic for another day. We'll see how that pans out. But we got our thoughts out there for the breaking news episode. So.
Yeah, and we appreciate everybody being a part of it on all social media. Stay tuned. We got more content coming up. We got some football to talk about. If you want to catch up on the football show, we got that coming right up after this. But appreciate the time, Fernando.
Somebody said Ryan Johnson potentially in the future. We forgot completely about Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, we did. So
yeah.
Again, last thing I'll say before we get into the football show, Sega Boy says Rams house. If you got to ask the crowd every 5 seconds whose house it is, it's not really your house. So
Swerve's house.
Yeah, fuck the Rams. We're going to get you up in Seattle. All right, everybody. Have a good rest of your night. That's the breaking news. You can check the replay out on our live edition on YouTube. Bye, Fernando.